What's up, EJK, coming live from my own bedroom, bringing you live coverage of the Home Story Cup post-mortem. This is a game between Flash versus Snoot on merry-go-round. I've been catching up on a lot of VODs lately, and I happened to miss Flash versus Snoot because it was played so early in the morning. So when I watched the game, I thought it would be a very nice little video to make for you guys. There we go. That was my quick little intro. It's a very, very strong timing that Flash pulls out of his hat. A little bit about the build while the pause is on the way. This is going to hit at 9 minutes, or it's going to be ready by around the 9-minute 30 mark, and it's going to hit with about 100-ish supply. 100 supply before 10 minutes, with a bunch of Marines, a bunch of Hellbats, 2 Medvacs, and no upgrades. Like any all-ins, this build relies on cutting your economy. Flash cut SCVs probably after he was fully saturated on his natural command center. There was no intention to take a third behind this. And it also relies on the element of surprise. In this game, Snoot was caught completely off surprise, or completely by surprise, because on merry-go-round, unless you get Overlord speed, it can be incredibly hard to scout the back of the base, the little section over here between the main and the natural, just simply because of how the map is laid out. On a map such as King Sejong Station, it might be a bit more difficult to hide this kind of a build. So the element of surprise definitely plays a big factor, and this map allows you to hide these kinds of builds so that your opponent is... Snoot ended up, since he didn't scout it, he did make precautionary spores. He got a slightly faster layer because he didn't know what Flash was doing. He saw the double gas and he didn't see a third command center. He obviously did not expect to see this build coming out of the bag, because I think the last time this build was used was a very, very long time ago. I don't even remember the exact date. So the core parts of the build are, after you start your first 2 Hellion production, instead of placing down a third command center, you instead place 2 more barracks and you add a second gas. That's pretty much the core behind this build. The older variations of the build happened before the Hellbat change, before you didn't need the armory, so normally players would hit with +1 attack as well, and maybe a couple Widow Mines out of the factory. But Flash decides to hit with about 8 Hellions, and he foregoes the upgrades completely in favor of getting a larger army, which I completely agree with. The goal of this push is to kill your opponent or gain crippling damage during the basically the 9:30 minute mark to about the 10-minute 30 mark. If your opponent somehow has scouted this build and he's been able to make a bunch of units, you might be in a bit of trouble. But he's going to have to scout it extremely early. Already at the 6-minute 30-minute mark, when a third meal normally would be going down, or let's say a Banshee would be starting, instead we see 2 reactors on the additional racks being made. So Flash is already powering up extremely hard with this build. And I also want to take note that he has stopped SCV production as well momentarily to squeeze out that starport, and he's also placing heavy priority on making units. It's not nearly as important to gain full saturation immediately as it is to make constant unit production. It's also you don't need to saturate your natural base that much. He's only at 40-ish SCVs right now, and I believe he should only go up to about 48, and I don't think he might not take the 4th gas as well, so that's going to be 3 additional SCVs that he doesn't need. We see here, since Snoot's Overlord wasn't able to scout that blind spot in the back of Flash's main base, he's building 3 spore crawlers as a precautionary measure, and he also has some roaches as well, so it looked like he was going to be going into some roach hydra play by the looks of it. we see this armory being added. It started a little bit before the first 2 Medvacs, and out of that bare factory, Flash continues to make Hellions. He's able to squeeze out 2 additional Hellions before the 2 Medvacs are out, and he's able to start the push. And already we see Flash ahead in supply against a Roach player, against a macro Roach style that Snoot is showing us in this game. Or actually, I'm picking at the wind here. I really don't know what Snoot's doing. Those Roaches could be imaginary, they could be defensive, they could be even big fat Zerglings. Anyways, important to note that is the 9-minute mark. Flash has 91 supply. He has stopped SCV production, and his first 2 Medvacs are out on the field. And what he does is he loads up his units into the Medvac, and then he speed boosts the Medvac as far as possible, so that even though Snoot is able to scout it over here, he's going to have about half a minute before Flash is at his doorstep, and that's not nearly enough time to morph Banelings, or to like make a round of Zerglings, and then to morph a bunch of Banelings from them. It's not enough time to make a bunch of Roaches. They usually get caught out of position if you don't have enough time to group them together at the front of your base. So basically all Flash is doing is trying to hit at the fastest possible time, and at this point he doesn't care that it's being scouted. Snoot now knows that a big-ass army is on the way. He's immediately making units, but as we see here, even though he scouts it, it's already too little too late, and these units aren't even going to be out. And these Zerglings, very, very fast to produce, barely pop out by the time that Flash is already stimming and at Snoot's doorstep. And at this point, it's basically a check move. You can A-move your opponent, and there's going to be minimal micro necessary to win this engagement. The only time it might get a little bit tough is when your opponent scouts it maybe before the Medvacs are being made, so he has an extra chance to make an extra round of units. Snoot made drones right before Flash moved out, which was a bit of a misplay, a misfortune by him, really, not seeing it earlier. And yeah, so Flash is able to take this really convincingly. And if your opponent, it's because Snoot wasn't able to scout it. If your opponent does scout it, the earlier he scouts it, the more units he's going to have, and the harder it's going to be to do a lot of damage like that. I think the best follow-up would be to, if it's scouted too early, is to use the 2 Medvacs and to drop them in maybe the main, and then do a 2-pronged attack with the Hellbats at the 3rd base, and try to, you really need to look for windows to take cost-efficient engagements, otherwise this attack is going to fail. And there is a timing to it. You have to do damage really, really fast, and in that time period, the 9-minute 30 timing period, to about the 10-minute time period, you have to split your army up, do damage, you have to do a big frontal attack, do a lot of damage, take out a big chunk of his army, and gain an army lead or something. Otherwise, the build is not going to work. And this isn't all in. No E-base necessary, no 3rd command center necessary, not even a 4th gas at your naturals necessary, which is pretty cool. So yeah, nice little 2-base all-in. Hope you guys give it a try on ladder. Just be careful. It's very important to deny the Overlord scouts and to position your buildings properly at the least possible area that the barracks can be scouted in your base. Some maps might be easier than others. Maps in the current pool, such as Cloud Kingdom and Ohana, I think would be easier to hide a couple additional Raxes from the Overlord scouts, whereas maps such as Daybreak and Selnaga might be good, and maybe Metalopolis, I don't know, but you guys get the idea. So have fun with it on ladder. Peace out.